now we're going to take a look at the axe and disassemble it in a way that you might need to if you're changing out some parts or you're doing any work on the gun. It's a very simple gun to work on. There's not a lot to it, so we'll get started. The first thing we're going to do is take the bolt guide out of the back. That's all you have to do, push the button and release the system from the back. In one of the other videos where I talk about lubricating this, I show that it's extremely easy to remove the adjuster from the back of the gun, take the poppet out, lubricate or change the O-ring, and put some lubricant on the O-rings here and on the bolt, and that's all you need to do for maintenance on the bolt system. Very simple. To take the grip frame off of the body, we're going to take the 1/8 Allen key and just break them loose. Undo the screw on the back, put it through the grip frame and undo the screw on the front. Okay. Now be careful when we slide these apart, but what we can do is simply slide apart the top and the bottom of the gun. Now the reason you need to be careful is because on the back we have the button system which allows that quick release bolt. There is a spring and the button. If you're not careful, these can fly out. So just take it out like so and put that carefully off to the side along with the spring. Now there's nothing to worry about, it's not going to fall out. You can actually now see the back adjustment which activates the micro switch on the trigger and allows you to change the activation point of the gun. So the grip frame and the foregrip are all together. Now if you want to, you can actually undo these two front screws and we'll slide the foregrip off. And so we have the grip frame and we have the foregrip. Inside the foregrip, there's one screw on the bottom of the foregrip. We actually hid this screw, so you just have to go through with a hole. And that was done so that if it comes loose, it doesn't come loose and fall out before you notice it. Even though that plate's loose, you can see the screw's not falling out and the plate's not falling out. We're going to do that completely. Off comes the plate. And this is where you would change your battery. You can see the battery in there and you can see the circuit board. And it is compatible with all aftermarket circuit boards for the Invert Mini. There we go. If you need to replace or change that circuit board, you're simply going to take out the battery. And then there is one screw, try and get it on camera, one screw right at the top there, and you just undo that screw. And then that allows the circuit board to come up. Disconnect the battery. Come up and out of the gun. Okay. I'll put it all back together in just a minute. Alright, so now we have the main body of the gun. This is the top of the gas transfer tube, and inside this gas transfer tube is that lockout piston that I talked about earlier. If I take it out, you can see it as that silver piece at the top. Now there is a pressure bias here, and what simply happens is when the gun is pressured up, this piston comes up slightly and locks into the bolt guide, preventing the bolt guide from being removed while there's pressure in the gun. We then have the solenoid. You can also see here the micro switch, which is the trigger activation. And the solenoid is held in place with a wire and a little piece of tape. I'm going to just cut that so I can take it apart and show you how it all comes together. To take the solenoid out, we're going to carefully get hold of the clip at the bottom and separate the clip from the circuit board. And then we just take the solenoid and we unscrew it. Very easy. It is the same solenoid that comes in the Invert Mini, the TM7, the TM15, so it's completely compatible with some spares that you may already have. Okay, and that's the underside of the gun. Now we're going to take out the gas transfer plate. And we take our Allen key and we just make those screws come loose. When using Allen keys, use the long end of the Allen key to undo a screw, and when you're tightening it, you never need any more force on an Allen key than you can get by using the short end to tighten. Very useful thing to learn and to do, because it'll make sure that you never put too much force on an Allen key and strip any of the threads in your gun. So just a good little trick to make sure you always tighten things properly, but never over tighten them, causing any damage. Okay, now be careful as we take this off. Take the plate away. Now in the back here, we actually have the piece which works for the quick release. Now be careful when you take this up or you turn it upside down, there's a little ball bearing in there. You do not want to lose that ball bearing. Sometimes it doesn't come out too easily. No, it definitely doesn't want to come out. Great. If it doesn't want to come out, don't make it come out. Leave it in there, but just be careful to make sure that you don't ever lose that ball bearing. Alright, on the back of the gun now, you're going to see the circuit board that we have. And the circuit board with the sensors in the axe is not the same as in the Invert Mini. It's longer because the gun is longer, and it has this new micro switch for the activation on the back. But that is the sensor board. These are the breech sensors that detect the paintballs in the breech of the gun. I'll put that over to the side. Now when we take a look underneath the gun, we have the manifold seal, which seals all the gas and transfers the gas through the gun. And then we also have 3 holes. The rear one brings the gas from the solenoid through to the bolt system. The middle one has that little white check valve in it, and that's the first one to release the gas to the bolt. And then the second one releases more gas to the bolt in the second stage of the bolt's movement. It is extremely important to have that little white check valve in that hole. And sometimes it comes out quite easily. Sometimes it doesn't come out at all. Trying to think of a way to get it out easily. No, she doesn't want to come out. That little white piece actually controls the speed of the bolt. It makes sure that the gun shoots smoothly, and it also makes sure the bolt isn't too fast and breaking paint. If the gun is breaking paint or sounds very clunky when you shoot it, it could be that that's missing. When you put that part in, you have to make sure that the top of it with all the little holes in goes in first. Looks like a little crown, and that top part goes into the hole first. Okay, that's all there is on the gun. The threads on here are Smart Parts Ion threads. It's compatible with a lot of different aftermarket feed necks. And the only last thing we're going to take a look at on the body is the ball detents. And these are the same ball detents as we have on a lot of our guns. Completely rebuildable. It's a Delrin tip, and there's a spring inside. We also have spares in the spares kit if you need them. And there's one on each side. They just unscrew and put them back in. Screw them down tight. Tight as you can with the short side of the Allen key, and that should be plenty tight. So that's everything on the inside of the gun. The only other things to take a look at is the grip frame, and I will take off panels from the side. The new grips are over molded with a hard internal skeleton and then a soft rubber outside. You can see the skeleton there. Now at the bottom here we have the female part of the gas transfer tube, and that should just come undone with your fingers. Okay. There is an O-ring on the bottom, a very important O-ring that seals into the regulator. Now we have the ASA system, which mounts on a rail, and we're going to loosen the screws from the side. Try not to drop your Allen keys. And then that will allow the regulator to slide off the front. If you loosen those completely, it will allow that rail to drop down out of the grip frame. Now if you find tightening those screws on the side doesn't tighten the regulator up to the grip frame and you need it to be tighter, take this out, or you can actually do it with it on the grip frame still. Tighten down these top two Allen keys just maybe a quarter of a turn so that they stick down into the holes like so. And that will allow you to tighten the regulator onto the bottom of the frame. Okay. Now the new relay regulator, it has a few changes. We still don't recommend, if you don't know what you're doing, taking the regulator apart, but it is possible now to completely take apart the regulator and to change the regulator seal inside. The pin that goes through to the piston actually has a 3mm nut driver rear end to it, and that allows you to get a nut driver from, say, an RC model car shop and use that to completely take apart the regulator and to service it if your regulator is having creeping issues. The regulator still has a burst disc on the side. Sorry, that's not the burst disc. The regulator still has, you can edit that one. The regulator still has the filter system built into the side, and then it also has the pressure bleed. So if the pressure in the gun comes too high, before it damages the gun, it will actually bleed the pressure out the side here. It has the Empire gauge on the side, and it also has the lever system on the bottom which turns the gas on and off, and the pressure is adjusted from the front with this brass screw. Now typically the gun will come out of the box at about 200 psi on the regulator. Depending on the conditions where you're playing and how you tune your gun, it's a very good idea to bring that pressure down to about 185 as long as you're getting the performance, or 180, 185 as long as you're getting the performance of the gun that you want to. We have the gun come out of the box with standard settings that's designed to work anywhere in the world. Now depending on where you live and play paintball, you can actually adjust it to get a little bit better performance. And one of those tips that we give you is just to bring that pressure down a little bit on the regulator. And you do that simply by screwing out the brass nut on the front. So that is complete disassembly that we recommend of the Axe paintball gun.